Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our psychology class. And this is Psych 1, the introduction to psychology. And this week is the 10th week of our course. And today we are going to cover the chapter 9 of the textbook, which is about developmental psychology. So far, by the last week, we have talked about a lot of topics in cognitive psychology. So we have talked about sensation and perception in chapter 5. We have talked about learning in chapter 6. We have talked about memory. We have talked about intelligence, language, and so forth. And starting from this week, we are going to change to another branch of psychology, which is developmental psychology. And in this course, we are going to use only 1 week to cover the stuff in developmental psychology. So there are a lot of stuff in cognitive psychology, actually. It uses about like 5 or 6 or 4 or 5 weeks to cover the stuff in cognitive psychology, but we only use 1 week to cover developmental psychology. So let's start the lecture for this week. So I believe that we have a brief understanding of what developmental psychology is, because we mentioned that in the first lecture in week 2. And let's know about what developmental psychology is. And the first question we need to answer is, like, what is lifespan development? So there is a formal definition in the textbook. So developmental psychology studies how humans, like we humans, how we change and grow through different life stages, such as childhood, adolescence, adulthood, and death. So developmental psychology basically studies how people change in different domains, such as the physical development, such as the mental development, such as the cognitive development. And also, these changes may happen in every stage of our life, including childhood. So when we are children, we grow. And adolescence, when we are adolescents, we grow and we change. In adulthood, we also grow and change. So this is all the topics that are studied in developmental psychology. So developmental psychology studies how humans change and grow, basically. So there can be development in 3 domains. The first domain is the physical development, so which is the development of our physical bodies. For example, the growth and changes in our physical body, and the growth and changes in the brain. Our brain is not like this when we have grown up. So our brain is not working like this. The brain is constantly changing and growing when the people are still young, when the people are still infants or children. And also the second domain of development is about the cognitive development. That is the growth and changes of those cognitive abilities, such as the learning abilities, the attention, the ability of the memory system, the language development. So we are not born to be able to speak any languages. We need to learn to speak a language or different languages, right? So we gradually have the skills. We gradually learn the skills to speak a language, to communicate with other people. That is about the cognitive development. So every aspect of those cognitive skills need to be developed. develop through the lifespan. That is about the cognitive development. The third domain of development is the psychosocial domain. So what is a psychosocial domain? Besides those cognitive skills, besides the physical development, we need to have more social relationships. We need to learn how to hang out with others, how to interact with others, how to maintain good relationships with others. So those are the skills we need to also learn when we grow up, when we change, when we grow. And also there is the changes and growth of personality. So when the infants are born, they don't have any mature personalities yet. They have something at the beginning, but those are not personalities. So everyone's personality is actually gradually formed through the growth, through childhood and adolescence and even adulthood. And also people gradually learn different kinds of emotions. So there are some basic emotions that are universal for all human beings. There are some like basic emotions that the infants just have when they are born, such as happiness, such as sadness. But there are some like more complicated emotions, such as prejudice, such as jealousy. So those are also very complex emotions. Those are not really basic emotions. So people gradually learn to have those emotions when they grow up, when they go through the different kind of life stages. So this kind of development is psychosocial development. So people gradually learn and grow to adjust themselves, to assimilate into the society. So those parts such as emotions, such as personality, such as social relationships, people need to learn that. People need to have those kind of development to like adapt to the current society. So these are the three domains of development. So when we talk about human development or the lifespan development or like life development psychology, what are we talking about? We basically talk about the three domains: the physical, the cognitive, and the psychosocial development. And in the branch of developmental psychology, there are some issues that psychologists and researchers and other people are arguing and they're discussing and they're talking about these issues. So let's see what the issues are. So the first really main issue in developmental psychology is that whether the human lifespan development is continuous or discontinuous. Is the process of growth or change a continuous process or a discontinuous process? So what is a continuous process? For example, the height, somebody's height. When the people are young, they're children or infants, they are growing their physical body. They can be higher and higher, and they can be taller and taller and taller. So their height change is continuous, right? So there is no sudden change of height. It's not the case that this child suddenly becomes really tall over one night. It's not possible. So the child or infant is growing all the time, every day, but you cannot really tell the difference every day, right? So if you see the child every day, you cannot see the growth of height because the change is so slow, so gradual, and so continuous. If you see the child when he is like 3 years old and you haven't seen him for like 10 years. And the second time you see him is like he is 14 years old. You can see the difference, right? So because you haven't seen him for 10 years, there is development, there is growth of height when people are children, but the change is so continuous. But in some other domains or in some other aspects, some kind of development is discontinuous. It means that it's not like gradual change every day. It does not grow or change for a very long time. And suddenly there is over one night, or there's a very short period of time, there is a huge change or a huge growth. And after that period, there is no change for a very long time. So the typical example of that is the language development. So remember that in that week, we talk about language. Children develop their language abilities or language skills in different stages. So the first stage is called the babbling stage. So the babies are just babbling. They cannot produce some kind of meaningful words, and they're just babble, and they're just producing some random voices. And suddenly it seems like there's one night that the children go to the one word stage. Suddenly they are able to produce one word that is meaningful to people. That is a meaningful word in human language. That change is so quick that their parents may be very shocked. Why this baby can only babble last night, yesterday, and this baby can produce some kind of words that are very meaningful. And that change is not really continuous. That change is relatively discontinuous. There is a sudden change of that ability. And the children grow through the one word stage, and suddenly over one night, they go to the two word stage. They suddenly be able to produce two words at the same time. So you know that two words can be a sentence, all right? So they can produce a sentence rather than just a one word. So that change is so quick that we cannot perceive that kind of the growth or change as continuous. So that kind of change or growth is discontinuous. The second issue in developmental psychology is the diversity of the process of development across people. So is a process or course of development the same or diverse across different people? So the issue is also debatable, because we can find evidence on both sides. So for some aspects, for some domains, such as the language development, the process for everyone is very, very similar. Is very similar for every child in the world. So basically, we can conclude that for everyone in the world, the process of language development is the same. So they go through the same stages and in the same age. They need to be in the babbling stage at first, and someday they go to the one word stage. And when is the day? That day is like about 18 months old. Yeah. So when every child is 18 months old, about 18 months old, they go to the one word stage. And later, when they are about 2 years old, they go to the two word stage. The process of developing the language ability is so similar for every child. However, for some domains or for some other aspects, the process of development may be diverse depending on the culture, because the cultural practices might accelerate, speed up the process of that development. That cultural practice might inhibit or slow down the process of that kind of a development in some kind of domain. One example is like walking. That is an example in the textbook. So in some culture, babies are they are very quick to learn how to walk, but in some cultures, their babies are slow to walk because they learn slowly to walk. Probably that depends on how their parents nourish their children. Probably in some cultures, their parents expect that their babies can walk very, very early, in their very early stage of their baby's life. In some other cultures, their parents do not expect their babies to walk very early, so their babies learn to walk very slowly, and yeah, that might be the case. So I would say that the process of development in every domain is around the same, or is kind of similar for everyone, because everyone is human. We are all humans. The similarity is much bigger than the diversity, much bigger than the difference for everyone. But in some cultural practices or the cultures might speed up or slow down some kind of a process of development in some domains. Yeah, so the culture or the environment might adjust the speed of development in some domains. But generally speaking, the process of development in every domain is kind of similar, is kind of very alike. That's my understanding of this issue. So you can think differently. You can provide a different opinion of this issue. Human development is very complex process. It's not, there's no clear-cut answer for this question. Is the course of development the same or diverse for people? It's very, very controversial sometimes. The third issue in developmental psychology is that, do people grow because of nature or nurture? So nurture means that people grow because they're born to have that trend or have that tendency to grow like that. Grow because nurture, that means they grow, they change because of the nourishment by their parents or by their caregivers, by the social environment. Their social environment support them to have those growth or have those changes. So what is the reason of people's growth, of people's development? Because of nature, because of the genetic makeups, or because of the social environment, because of the parents' education or nourishment? Which one is right? That issue is also controversial because we can find evidence on both sides. So we can find evidence that people grow because of nature. We can also find evidence that people grow because of nurture, because of people's parents' education, and because of the support of social environment. And there's one example that shows that the development, people's development, is because of nature and nurture. So that is about development of intelligence. So we have talked about this example in that week, in that lecture slide, in that lecture video. So the psychologists used to conduct a study. They find some twins, some identical twins, means that those twins share the exactly same genetic makeups. Their DNAs are 100% the same. So those twins are called identical twins. So they found those identicals who grow up in different families. For some reason, they're identical twins, but these two grow up in different families. So they have the same nature, but they have the different nurture totally. So they studied their intelligence when they grown up, when they are adults. They found that, shockingly, they found that their intelligence between those identical twins are 70% of similarity. There is 70% of similarity between those identical twins in terms of intelligence. So it means that it basically means that those identical twins are basically the same smart. They basically have really similar intelligence when they have grown up, when they are adults. Even though they are nourished, they are raised up in different families. So what can we conclude about this? So nature plays a greater role in the development of intelligence. So no matter what kind of environment you grew up, no matter like what kind of family you grew up, you have that kind of intelligence. If you have that DNA, you can be very smart. But however, there is also evidence of nurture from this example because the similarity between the identical twins is not 100%, right? It's not still 100% because of nurture, because they grew up in different families. It's only 70% of similarity. It's not 100%. If it is 100% of similarity, it means that only nature plays the role. Only the genetic makeups plays a role in growing the intelligence. But the reality is that it's only 70%. It means that family kind of play a role in developing the children's intelligence. So in some kind of environment, social environment, in some kind of families, their children are smarter partially because the good education or good social environment in their families. So my understanding of this issue is that people grow no matter what. They have the tendency to grow. They have the tendency to be mature. They have a tendency to be adults eventually. However, the degree of how mature they can be, or the degree of the maturity of their development in different domains, no matter it's physical or cognitive or psychosocial development, the degree of the or the success, the degree of the success of their growth is adjusted, is influenced by the nurture, by their social environment that they are growing up. So nature and nurture both play a role in human development. That's my understanding of this issue. So we can see that there are three issues, but people have different opinions because there are evidence for both sides. And is human development continuous or discontinuous? In some domains, it's continuous. In some other domains, it's discontinuous. The second issue, people are the same or diverse in terms of the process of development. So in some domains, it's very similar, but in other some domains, it's kind of diverse. The third issue, do people grow because of nature or nurture? I believe it's both. People grow both because of nature and nurture. So these are the three main issues in developmental psychology. And next, we can talk about some classical theories in developmental psychology. So there are some theories in developmental psychology are very, very classical. We must learn that. So when we learn about these topics, we cannot escape these theories. So let's talk about these theories. The first theory I would like to share with you is the psychosocial development theory by Erikson. You can call this theory as Erikson's psychosocial view of human development, or Erikson's psychosocial development theory. So their theory is developed by Erikson. So he was a Jewish. He was raised in a Jewish family in Denmark in the early 20th century, I think, or late 19th century. Yeah, so he was born in 19th century. Yeah, so he migrated to the United States. Later, he was a professor in America for many years. He was best known for the 8 stages of the psychosocial development. So he developed theory that figuring out that there are different stages of human development. There are 8 stages in total across the lifespan, from the birth to the death. There are 8 stages of development in total. And those stages are focusing on the social side, on the social nature of development. So those 8 stages does not focus on the does not focus on the physical development, does not focus on the cognitive development, does not focus on how people develop their language skills, how they develop their cognitive abilities or reasoning abilities, but it focuses on the social side, focuses on the psychosocial development. So this is the brief introduction of the psychosocial development theory by Erikson. So next, let's see about, so, and also his theory is different from Sigmund Freud's theory. So Sigmund Freud believed that why people grow, because they have the tendency that they have the sexual desires, they have the lust for sex, or they have the impulse in their mind. That's a natural tendency. That's the views by Sigmund Freud. Why people grow? Because they have the sexuality, because of the sexuality, because they have the sexual desires. Sexual desires may be reflected in different aspects, not only the sex side or sexuality side. Sigmund Freud actually believed that why people have the motivation, why people have the impulses, all because of sexuality. Because every person is alive, they have the life, right? So there is impulse in doing a lot of impulses of doing a lot of things. Those are all the reflection of sexual desires. But Erikson has a different view. He focused on the social factors. He believed that why people grow, because that we are living in the society, we are living in the families, we are really profoundly influenced by the people that are around us, by our parents, by our caregivers, by our families, by our peers, by everyone that is interacting with us. So we grow up because we're a member of the society. We are growing in the society. We socialize so that we grow. We go through a a lot of stages and we can grow up. That is Erickson's view for why people have developed. And Erickson's view focuses on the social and cultural environment. That is what I mentioned just now. The self grows through the interactions with social and the cultural environment. In the social and the cultural environment, we have different people, right? People have different beliefs. They have different practices. We live in certain cultures. So everyone is interacting with the social environment, interacting with the culture all the time, constantly interacting with the society and the culture. That is why the self grows. That is why everyone is growing and changing. And in every stage of development, because he believed that there are 8 stages of development, in every stage of development, there are different things to do. There are different tasks to finish. There are different trends. So in every stage, everyone, the person focuses on different things to finish. So there are some major tasks in every stage. Everyone needs to finish those major tasks so that that person can grow. And those major tasks are not easy for everyone. So every individual needs to have has to have those some kind of struggles in every stage. So everyone is struggling to finish that major task. If not, if that person cannot successfully overcome the struggles or cannot successfully finish the major tasks, what will happen? There can be crisis. So Erickson also mentioned or developed the concept of crisis. You have life crisis in every stage. So there are different kinds of crises in different stages. If individuals cannot successfully finish those major tasks. So in the crisis, they may overcome the crisis and go further, and they go to the next stage. They grow up. They have the growth. They can be better. They go to the next stage. However, they may go backward in the crisis. It means that they cannot finish the major task successfully. They are struggling so much, and they go backward. They go back to the last stage, or they just stayed in that stage forever. So that may happen. So so in everybody's life there is a risk. There is a risk. Not everyone can successfully finish every task in every stage. Their life may be there might be a lot of crisis in somebody's life. Yeah, so that is the basic idea of Erickson's psychosocial view of human development. So there are 8 stages, and in every stage there are some kind of trends or major tasks for the person to finish. If the person can finish those major tasks successfully, they can go to another stage. And there are struggles in every stage because those major tasks are not easy. And also there can be crises that are emerging in every stage because of the struggles, because they cannot overcome struggles successfully. There can be crisis. Because of the crisis, individuals might go further or backward. So let's see the 8 stages of development. So there are 8 stages. Let's see the first stage. Stage 1 is from birth to about 1 year old. So what is the task in this stage? The major task is to build the trust with the caregivers, build the trust with the whole society. So the major task is trust. Trust what? The babies in that stage need to trust that the basic needs, such as the affection, such as love by their caregivers, such as the important nourishment, such as food and water and milk, can be met. Those basic needs can be met. So the babies need to develop the trust that those needs can be met, will be met in the future, no matter what. That is a very basic sense, very basic feeling or basic belief. But babies need to develop that kind of a belief and feeling that, oh, this world is trustable, right? So my needs can be met. I can grow up. I can live my life. That is a really deep belief about how the world is like. So babies may struggle about that because sometimes they might have the mistrust, cannot build the trust that the basic needs will be met. Probably because the environment is not good enough. I mean, like social environment, their parents or their caregivers do not give the nourishment or affection that much or that frequently, that in time. The babies may have some kind of feelings that, oh, the basic needs will not be met sometimes. So the crisis is the trust versus the mistrust. If the babies in the crisis cannot go forward, they go backward. They have the mistrust. They believe that their basic needs cannot be met. And the second stage is from 1 year old to 3 year old. That is about 2 years. So in this stage, the major task is totally different from the major task in first stage. The major task in this stage is build the autonomy. It means that that is a sense that one can independently do something. One can independently finish some tasks. That is a sense of independence in many tasks. It's a sense that, oh, I do not have to rely on my parents, or I do not have to rely on other people to do something. If I want to do something, I can do that by myself. That is the sense of autonomy. That is a sense or deep belief that the babies or children need to develop in that stage. If they cannot successfully develop this kind of sense of autonomy, they can form a sense of shame or doubt. They doubt themselves. They're hesitating. They do not really believe that they can do something independently. They do not really believe that they can do things by themselves, do not rely on others. And sometimes they feel the shame. They are shameful about themselves, right? So they're struggling in their mind. So this is a major task in stage 2. And The following stage is stage 3, is from 3 years old to 6 years old. It's about 3 years. The major task for this stage is kind of different from the second stage. In this stage, in the third stage, the major task is to take the initiatives on some kind of things or activities. They need to build a sense or build a feeling or have a deep belief that they are able to take initiatives on the activities that they want to do. They can start to realize that they can do something. They can take the initiative doing something. So that is the sense or deep belief that they need to build. If they cannot successfully have that kind of feeling that they can take an initiative, they might form the feeling of guilt, because they feel guilty because they cannot take initiatives. They want to do that, they want to take initiatives, but they don't believe that they can. So that is the third stage of development, initiative versus guilt. So the major struggle is taking in the initiative or feeling guilty. In the next stage, stage 4, is from 7-year-old to 11-year-old. So remember that that is the age that all the children go to the elementary school. So from in the last 2 stages, from stage 2 and 3, probably the children go to the kindergarten or they stay in home. But starting from the 6-year-old or 7-year-old, they start to go to the elementary school. In this stage 4, from 7-year-old to 11-year-old, the major task for them to finish is to develop a sense of self-confidence. So that is called industry by Erik Erikson. So they need to build a sense that they are able to do things. They have the abilities to finish those tasks. They need to have a feeling of that they are competent, they are able, they can do things if they want. If they cannot build a sense of self-confidence, what happens? They may have a sense of inferiority. It means that they are not confident, they are not able to do things if they want. They are inferior to other people because they feel that other people are able to do things, but they are not able to do things. They do not have the self-confidence in themselves. It's not like some kind of sense that I'm not good at doing a particular task. It's a very general sense of self-confidence. They're just not self-confident in everything, in generally in life. So we can see that from the first 4 stages, there are different tasks to finish. They need to build a sense of different things. In the first stage, from birth to 1-year-old, they need to build a sense of trust. They need to trust that their needs can be met. And in the second stage, they need to build a sense that they are independent. They can do things without relying on others. They can have a sense, they can have a ability to be autonomous. And in the third stage, they need to build a sense that they are able to take initiative. Actually, they can take an initiative on some activities. In the fourth stage, they need to build a sense of self-confidence. So that is like those tasks are more and more difficult when they go through different stages. So the first one is the easiest, build the trust, and the second one is like more difficult, need to have a sense of independence, need to do something independently. And in the third stage, that is more difficult. Need to take initiative, not only doing something independently, but proactively start some kind of tasks, start some kind of activities, take the initiative. And the fourth stage, need to build a self-confidence, not only doing something independently, not only taking the initiative, but being able, having a sense of being able to do those things successfully. That is basic trend in the first four stage. And starting from the fifth stage, that is the stage for adolescence. So adolescence generally starts from 12 or 13-year-old and ends at 20-year-old. So in that stage, the major task is forming the identity, because in that stage, they do not only focus on themselves, they also focus on the society. They also focus on the relationships between themselves and the society. So they try to figure out who they are, what is the position in the society for them. So they experiment with different kinds of roles, social roles and identities. They start to develop different identities and roles. They start to understand who they are, what they can do in the society, what are the relationships between themselves and other people. So if they can finish the task successfully, they can successfully build some kind of identities that are really mature and really stable. If they cannot, they are confused. There is confusion. They have a sense of confusion. They are so confused who they are. They do not know who they are. They do not know what they can do for others. They do not know where they go in the society. That is the crisis in this stage. And next stage 6, that is from 19-year-old to 29-year-old. That is basically the early adulthood. In that stage, the basic task, major task, is to build the intimacy and close relationships with other people, because they need to go to the society. We are not living alone. We are living in the society. We need to socialize with other people. We need to interact with other people. So in this stage 6, we need to build intimacy with other people. We need to build close relationships with other people. If we cannot successfully build good relationships or intimacy with other people, the result is isolation. We are isolated in the society. And the following stage, in stage 7, is from about 30 years old to 64 years old. In this stage, we are going to form families in those ages. We are going to have children. We are going to have grandchildren. We are going to have some kind of achievements in our career at work. So in this stage, the major task is to do something to contribute to the society. We need to have achievements in the society. We are important in the society. We need to do something to contribute to the society. And also we need to form families. We need to be part of a family. So if we can successfully finish this task in this stage, we are successful. We can contribute to the society and be part of a family. That status or that situation is called a generativity by Eric Erikson. Generativity. So if we cannot successfully finish those tasks, we cannot contribute to the society. We have done nothing in our career, or we cannot form families. We cannot have wife or husband. We cannot have children. We cannot have grandchildren. That situation is called stagnation. That is called stagnation. That is the crisis that we might meet in this stage. And the last stage is from the about 65 year old to death. That is the last stage of the out of the 8 stages. In this stage, it's not about forming families. It's not about having children. It's not about contribution to the society. It is about reflecting the whole life. It is the time, or that is the age for people to have a reflection of their own life, have an assessment of their own life. They need to make sense of their own life. They need to find the meaning. They want to find the meaning of their life. They want to figure out whether their life is meaningful or not. So that is not time to really do something to contribute to the society or having the children, but that is time to have a reflection, have assessment, make sense of life. So if they can successfully finish those tasks, that situation is called integrity. Their life is integrate. If not, that situation is called despair. Despair. If they cannot finish the tasks in this stage, meaning that they cannot make sense of their life, they don't believe that their life is meaningful. They don't believe that they have contributed to the society. That situation is called despair. They're despaired. So these are the average stage in Erikson's psychosocial view of human development. You can see that before 18 years old, there are already 5 stages. So children or the people who are not adults yet, they go through these stages very quickly. They change very quickly. They grow very quickly. Yeah, you can see before 18 years old, people have gone through 5 stages. They grew up, they change very quickly. But starting from the stage 6, the change is relatively slow, especially the 7th stage. That is almost the whole adulthood. That is the middle adulthood, the late adulthood. That is more than 30 years. During the period of more than 30 years, people just have the same major task to finish in their life. Just contribute to the society and be part of family, having children, and so forth. And starting from the 65 years old, people are in the late adulthood. They just make sense of life, and they do not really doing some actual contributions to the society. I would say that these age ranges are not that strict. It means that somebody who is 70 years old, probably that person is still in stage 7, still in the stage of generativity. Somebody who is 60 years old, he or she is already in the stage 8, already in the stage that making sense of life. 65 or 64, it just really it's a guess. It's not really strict boundary. Age, it's not a really strict age range. However, for the first 5 stages, those age ranges are relatively more strict because, you know, the process of human development for children are almost the same or very similar across everyone. So basically, before 1-year-old, they need to build a sense of trust, and before 3-year-old, they need to build a sense of autonomy. Before 6-year-old, they need to build a sense of taking the initiative. So this is the 8 stages of Erikson's psychosocial view of human development. So let's go to another classical theory that is very important in developmental psychology. So this guy is called Piaget. So he was a French psychologist, or French psychologist who studies the cognitive development of children. So he developed the theory of the cognitive theory of development. So his theory is basically focusing on the cognitive change or cognitive growth of children. It's different from the Erikson's theory. Erikson theory focuses on the social side, the psychosocial development, but his theory Piaget's theory focuses on the growth of the cognitive skills, cognitive abilities. So the main idea in his theory is that the children in different ages, in different stages of cognitive development, do not think in the way that adults do. So we think in particular ways. We adults think in particular ways, but children have a different styles or different ways to think because their cognitive skills are still developing. So let's look at his theory. So the general idea of his theory is that children gradually develop some kind of a schemata to understand the world. So we have learned about schemata or schema. So we have concepts. We can form different concepts in our mind. And schemata or schema are the collection of different concepts, right? So we form our mind is forming different concepts, and our brain is organizing different similar concepts into one schema. And children develop those schemata or schema to understand the world. But how do they form those new schemata? There are 2 ways. They learn new knowledge or organize new information through 2 ways. The first way is called assimilation. Assimilation. So there are existing schemata in their mind already. They take the new information compared to the current schemata. So there is a current schemata they already have, and they meet some kind of new information. They get some new information. They compare this new information with the current schemata, and they combine or assimilate the new information into the current schemata. So that process is called assimilation. And another way is called accommodation. There is the current schemata. However, there is some kind of new information that is coming in. They meet some kind of new information. That new information changes the current schemata. The current schemata is like not really correct or not really right. So they need to change the current schemata based on the new information. The new information is more correct, and they totally modify the current schemata. That way is called accommodation. So there are two ways: assimilation and accommodation. So there is an example that we can imagine. So how does a children learn what a dog is? So how do we let the children know what a dog is? What is the meaning of a dog? What is the concept of a dog or dogs? So in life there are different kinds of dogs. They look different, like the pictures in the picture on the right. Actually, they look quite different. How do we let a child know what a dog is? How do we let them know these are all dogs? What is the typical feature of a dog? So the way is probably like there's one dog in the family, and the child gradually learns, oh, that is dog. Something looked at that is dog. Probably this dog may be the dog raised in the family. And there's one day this child goes outside with parents, see other dogs. Probably see this dog on the right, and this is dog, but this child doesn't know. The parents told him or her, this is dog also. So the child need to assimilate that new information in the current schemata about dogs. So these two dogs are both dogs, right? So when the child sees more and more dogs, the child assimilate more and more new information into the current schemata about dogs. And sometimes children may have the wrong information in some kind of schemata. For example, probably children may think that cats are also dogs because cats also have 4 legs, 2 eyes, 1 mouth, and also have those hair, right? So cats or dogs are sometimes really similar. They all have those features, such as having 4 legs. So how do children tell the difference between cats and dogs? Probably, I guess that one child may think that any animals with 4 legs, with hair, with 2 mouth, 1 mouth and 2 eyes are dogs. And once that child sees a cat, he or she thinks, oh, this is a dog. And the parents may correct him or her that, oh, this is a cat, this is not dog, right? So in this situation, accommodation happens because the child need to change the current schemata because there's new information coming in, totally change the current schemata. Need to modify the content in the schemata. So these are the basically 2 ways of how learn the new information for children. So we adults actually learn new information using the 2 ways, right? So we have, if we learn something that is totally new for us, we need to assimilate the current information into the current schemata, or we need to change the current schemata because of the new information coming in. In Piaget's theory of children's cognitive development, there are also different stages for children's cognitive abilities of growth. And those stages are different from the Aggerson's psychosocial view of human development. And these stages are just stages for the cognitive development. And also those stages are all for children, not for the entire lifespan. So let's look at the Piaget's stages of those children's cognitive development. There are 4 stages in total. So the first stage in cognitive development is called the sensory motor stage. That stage generally happens in the children who are between 0 and 2 years old. That age range is not that strict, which means that there is evidence showing that some kind of children who are younger than 2 years old, they go to another stage. They go to the next stage. They are not in this stage already. So that age range is just a general description of what kind of children are in that stage. So it's called sensory motor stage. So in that stage, children learn everything through their own experiences. They experience through senses, through their different kinds of senses and actions. For example, touching, for example, seeing, hearing. So they learn everything through those sensory experiences and also their own actions. They do a lot of things to figure out different things, right? So that's why it's called the sensory motor stage, because they rely on the sensory experiences and also relying on the actions, rely on movements to learn everything. So in this stage, they gradually learn the phenomena is called object permanence. So they learn that through senses, through actions. So what is object permanence? That is the knowledge that the object, anything in the physical world, anything is always there. It does not disappear suddenly, does not disappear that easily. The object still exists even if it disappears. That is what the children gradually learn in this stage. It means that some children who are like, for example, who are less than 1 year old, they do not have the knowledge of object permanence yet. If something they cannot see, they believe that thing disappears. That can be reflected in a certain game. So you might know that there is a game that adults play with the baby. So show baby a thing, and suddenly hide that thing in the bag or somewhere. Hide that thing, and see if that baby is looking for that thing. So for very, very young children who haven't developed object permanence yet, they see a thing and that thing is hit by the adult. The children does not looking for it, because they believe that if they cannot see that thing just disappears. We know that it's not possible, right? So that thing, if we cannot see something, that it doesn't mean that that thing disappears. It just means that we cannot see that. That thing is still there. We just cannot see it. That is the knowledge of object permanence. And if we can see some babies that that thing is hit by the adult, and that baby is looking for that, is looking for that from other places, it means that that baby has developed the knowledge of object permanence. So here's a question for you to think about. What does the child think if the child sees mom disappears when the child has not developed object permanence yet? So for a children who doesn't have the knowledge of object permanence, if the mom just leaves or disappears, or for some reason the child cannot see the mom, what does the child think? What does the child think? Probably the child just think his or her mom dies. That's not true, right? So we know that our mom just leaves, is somewhere else. But for the children who do not have the object permanence yet, they really believe that if they cannot see their mom just disappears. Their mom dies. If their mom shows up again, they are shocked. So their mom just suddenly become alive. That's very wrong idea, but the children really believe that if they haven't developed object permanence. So the suggestion here is that for the children who are really, really young, like before 2 years old, before 1 year old, the mom must show up in every moment. The mom must be there. The child, the infant, must see the mom all the time. Whenever the child is there, is awake, the mom must be there. So if not, the child may think that her mom or his mom dies, and that baby, that infant will be really anxious. And also in this stage, children gradually develop the phenomenon called stranger anxiety. So they are anxious when they see strangers. They are so anxious when they see some people who they haven't seen before. So why they are anxious about strangers? Because they cannot assimilate the strangers into existing schemata. Probably in their mind, the humans are themselves and their parents and the people they have seen. For the people they haven't seen yet, those are, they don't know what those are. Those people are not really people for them. Those are, I don't know, aliens for them. They cannot assimilate the strangers into the existing schemata about humans. So they are scared of strangers, or they're anxious when the strangers are present. So imagine that if we see aliens from the space, from the universe, suddenly, we are also very scared, right? We are also very anxious because we cannot assimilate those aliens into our existing schemata. We cannot really like understand those aliens because in our mind we don't have the schemata for those aliens. So the situation is similar for the children who are in the sensory motor stage. They cannot perceive, they cannot assimilate those strangers into the schemata called humans. That's why they are anxious about strangers. And that is the sensory motor stage. They learn everything through their direct sensory experiences and their direct actions. And the next stage, the second stage in children's cognitive development, is called a pre-operational stage. Pre-operational stage. That happens in the range of age 2 and age 7. So for the children who are between 2 and 7 years old, they are in the pre-operational stage. So in this stage, they can use some kind of symbols to understand words, images, and ideas. they can understand the word using some kind of words and some kind of images and ideas. So they start to understand some kind of abstract ideas. But that ability is very limited. So they do not only understand the world through their own senses and actions. They also can understand images. So on images, there are things that are not real, right? So they are fake, but they are just pictures. And they can also, because they learn languages, they can also understand words. They can know what the words mean. They start to use symbols to understand the word, not the real things. They can understand, they can use symbols to understand things. They also engage in pretend play because they can use symbols, right? So they can take, oh, you are the mother, I'm the father, or she is a daughter, and he is the son. So they engage in pretend play because they can use symbols. They understand what symbols mean. That is the features or characteristics of a pre-operational stage. However, they cannot understand logic still. They cannot mentally manipulate information. For example, 2 plus 4 is what? 6. They cannot do that kind of a mental manipulation. If they need to get the answer, they need to take 2 of something and they need to take 4 of something, and they put these things together, they count it, that is 6, right? Because in this stage, they cannot mentally manipulate information. They cannot understand the logic either. So logic is like, the really simple logic can be, David is a person. All persons, all people have eyes. The conclusion is David has eyes. So that's really basic logic. Children in this stage cannot understand that, cannot use logic to understand the world. They can only use their own actions, their own senses, and use some kind of really simple symbols, such as words and images, to understand the world. And also in this stage, they are egocentric, means that they cannot take the perspective of other people. It's called, this feature is called egocentrism. Why is that? Because they haven't developed the phenomenon called theory of mind yet. They don't have the theory of mind in this pre-operational stage. What is theory of mind? That's a knowledge about that other people have their own beliefs, desires, intentions, emotions, perspectives. Other people's beliefs and perspectives and emotions are different from one's own. So we understand that I have some kind of knowledge, information, perspectives, beliefs, desires, intentions, emotions. That's mine. And you have different kind of beliefs, desires, intentions, and perspectives. And you and mine are different. That's very normal. That's called the theory of mind. We have that kind of knowledge when we are adults. But the children in this stage, they haven't had that knowledge yet. So as a result, in this stage, the children believe that their own intentions are other people's intentions. Their own beliefs are other people's beliefs. Their own perspectives are other people's perspectives. If they want to eat something like, for example, pasta, if they want to eat pasta at one moment. They believe that all other people also want to eat pasta at the same time, because they believe that other people's intentions, their own intentions, are also other people's intentions. They cannot really successfully differentiate their own inner spiritual world with other people's spiritual world. If they know something, for example, his mom is a doctor, that's her knowledge, that's that child's knowledge. The child will believe that all other people know her mother is a doctor. Because they cannot take the perspectives of others. They don't have that ability yet. So this kind of ability is called, or knowledge called, the theory of mind. So they cannot have that ability. So they're egocentric in that stage. That is temporary, right? So if they go through that stage, they go to the next stage, they can develop a theory of mind. The third stage is called the concrete operational stage. It's for the children who are from 7 years old to 11 years old. So you can notice that the children who go to elementary school are in this stage, in concrete operational stage. They can use logic in this stage. They can logically think about concrete events. They can do mathematics starting from 7 years old. They can perform mathematical operations. They can mentally think about 2 + 4 = 6. They can do that in this stage. And they can use logic to think about some concrete events. They can understand a phenomenon which is called conservation. So what is conservation? Conservation means that even if something changes its shape, that thing's mass, volume, and number stay the same. For example, water. If you pour the water from the one bottle to another bottle, and these two bottles have different shapes, you will know that the mass or the volume of this water is the same, no matter what the shape of the water is, right? So that's very normal for us. That knowledge called conservation. Children before this stage do not understand this because they cannot use the logic to think about concrete events. So these are concrete events, right? So the same amount of water is in this bottle first, and you pour the water from this bottle to the next bottle. You pour all the water into that next bottle. In the next bottle, the water has the same amount. That involves the logic to think about concrete events. Children before this stage do not understand this. Probably children before age 7 cannot mentally think about this. And another knowledge called reversibility. Reversibility. So objects can be changed and returned back to their original form or condition. So things can be changed. The typical example is water or any kind of liquid, right? So you can pour this water from one bottle to the next bottle. And also you also can pour the water from the next bottle to the original bottle. So the water can go back to their original form, original shape. So that knowledge is called reversibility. So conservation means that even if the shape of something changes, its mass, volume, and numbers stay the same. That's conservation. And reversibility means that things can be changed and returned back to its original form or shape. There is a video that shows the experiments in which the experimenters test whether children have the knowledge of conservation or not. So they recruited some kind of very young children. They do some kind of concrete manipulation of water or something in front of those children and ask them if the number or the volume of that thing changes or not. So let's watch the video first. So you can see in this video that the adult, this lady showed a lot of things to this child, and this child obviously doesn't have the knowledge of conservation yet, right? Because the typical example I can talk about is like the 2 glasses of water. So she put the same amount of water into the 2 glasses, and this child was monitoring that. So the child makes sure, oh, there are same amount of water in the 2 glasses. It's actually, yes, there's same amount of water in the glasses, because the 2 glasses are exactly the same shape, and the height is the same, so that the amount of water is the same. That's our thinking. That's our logic about this, because we can mentally manipulate the information. However, she does something different later. She takes another glass. That glass is like higher, but it's like more tiny. Like it's like that shape. It poured the water from this glass to this glass, the new glass. And the children start to say that, oh, in this glass, has more water, because why? It's higher. The surface of the water is higher than this one. So in this glass has more water. For us, it's totally nonsense, because we can mentally manipulate the information. We know that the thing changes its shape. When the thing changes its shape, the volume stays the same, right? We can understand that, but this child does not understand that. So that his conclusion is that oh, this glass has more water because it's higher. That's the typical example of the knowledge of conservation. This child does not really have the knowledge of conservation. He's pretty young. He's like younger than 7 years old. So he is still in the pre-operational stage, not in the concrete operational stage. So if you invite a child who is like in the concrete operational stage, he or she can quickly figure out, oh, in these 2 glasses has the same amount of water. Okay. So that's there is a sensory motor stage, there is a pre-operational stage, and there's a concrete operational stage. And start from 11 years old and beyond, children go to the formal operational stage. So that is also the last stage for PSYCH stages of cognitive development. So in this stage, people can think logically about both concrete events and abstract ideas. So people can understand abstract ideas. They can understand some kind of things that are really abstract, not only concrete objects. They can think in even hypothetical situations. They don't have to really do it. You don't have to show them the real things. You just tell them the hypothetical situations. Imagine that there is a situation in blah, 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 and they can think about, they can mentally manipulate the information. They can test the hypothesis. They can test, oh, if this happens, and then what? If that happens, then what? They can think like this. So we adults are in the formal operational stage. That is because that is the highest stage that we can reach. So finally, from 11 years old and beyond, children can think about everything, like everything that we can think about. So I think that is really quick. So starting from 11 years old, so the children only use like 11 years to have the full development of the cognitive development. And there's some kind of a criticism about Piaget's theory about cognitive development, because a lot of the psychologists found in the real experiments that some children go to the higher stage at a really young stage, at a really young age. Like they found that some children are younger than 7 years old, but they are already in the concrete operational stage. They can do math before 7 years old. Some children, they're slow. They develop their cognitive abilities slowly. They cannot do math even in the 7 or 8 or 9 years old. So every child is quite different. Some children may develop their cognitive abilities very fast. They go to the higher stages at a very young age, much faster, much younger than the age range that Piaget pointed out. That is probably because in Piaget's age, in the age that Piaget lived, because Piaget was a psychologist like in late 19th century, the early 20th century. In that kind of age, the children in that age might not be that smart. And nowadays, some children are super smart. They develop their cognitive abilities really quick, really fast. So these age ranges for different stages are not that strict. If you see some children who are smarter than we expect, that is also normal. Okay, so there are 4 stages in Piaget's stages of cognitive development. The first one is sensory motor. Sensory motors. Second one is pre-operational stage. The third one is concrete operational stage. And the last one is called the formal operational stage. And next, we can know about some life stages. So generally speaking, so it's a common sense that there are different kind of life stages in everyone's life. So there is also development before birth. It's called prenatal development. So before birth, before somebody is born, there is also development. It's called prenatal development. And infancy starts from birth and ends at about age 2. So from age 0 to age 2, that is called infancy. So we call them infants, or we call them babies or infants. And for the children who are older than 2 years old, they are not infants. They are children. So we can call children in this age range as toddlers. Or this life stage is called early childhood, from age 2 to 6 or age 7. From age 2 to 6, that's early childhood. And middle childhood is from age 6 to 12. Adolescence is from age 13 to 20. So childhood may be like from age 2 to age 20. So there's early childhood, there's middle childhood, there is adolescence. So adolescence is actually the connection or the transition period from childhood to adulthood. So we call it this stage as adolescence. So emerging adulthood is from age 20 to 30. That's the early stage of adulthood. emerging adulthood. And adulthood is beyond age 20. That's just adulthood. There's emerging adulthood. There's also middle adulthood. There is also late adulthood. So emerging adulthood is from age 20 to 30, about 30. Middle adulthood is from about age 30 to age 64, about. And the late adulthood is from ages 64 and beyond. But that age ranges are not that strict, you know. So adulthood is the adulthood. So sometimes it's difficult to differentiate between middle adulthood and late adulthood because everyone's development is kind of different. Somebody's development is so quick. Somebody's development is really late. We can combine this with Erickson's psychosocial view of human development. We can see that first stage, the stage one of in Erickson's theory is about trust versus mistrust. Stage one is from age 0 to 1. That's in infancy, right? And stage 2 is from age 1 to 3. That is about autonomy. That is in infancy and early childhood. And the stage 3 is from age 3 to 6, is also in early childhood. Stage 4 is about building the self-confidence. Stage 4 is from age 6 to age 13 or 12. So in middle childhood, the main task is to build self-confidence. And the next stage, the stage 5, is to build identity. That is from age 12 to age 18. That's basically in adolescence. So adolescence is very important for socialization. Is important for building the identities and building the social roles. Age stage 6 in Erickson's theory is about intimacy, is to build intimacy, to date, to having girlfriend and boyfriends, and to get married, to having children. So that stage is about from 18 to 29. That is also the stage of emerging adulthood. And stage 7 and 8 are in adulthood. Yeah, so that is, we can compare these life stages with the psychosocial stages in Erickson's theory. We can know that in different kind of life stages, people have different main tasks to finish. So let's look at the infancy and early childhood a little bit. So let's look at the Harry Hallow's study. So Harry Harlow was a very famous psychologist in the United States. In 1950s, like many years ago, like 70 years ago, he conducted a series of studies to figure out how important the emotional or affective attachment is for the development of monkeys. So he used monkeys to do these studies, to do a lot of experiments. He figured out that the affective attachment between the baby monkey and the mother is very important for the development of the baby monkey in terms of the physical development and the cognitive development, and also very important, very important for the mental health of the baby monkeys. So here is some examples of the specific steps in Harlow's monkey studies. So what he did is that there are some kind of newborn monkeys, and for every newborn monkey, he separated the newborn monkey from the natural mother. So when the monkey was born, separated him or her, separated from its natural mother. Instead, presented this newborn monkey with two fake mothers or two surrogate mothers. So one surrogate monkey mother monkey was made of wire mesh, and this surrogate monkey was able to dispense milk. So this surrogate monkey is here. Is shown in the picture on this side. This is one surrogate monkey. So you can see it's totally made of wire mesh. It's iron wire, and is able to dispense milk from this position. And the other surrogate monkey was softer and made from cloth. And this monkey did not dispense milk. So that's a surrogate monkey here. You can see it's made of cloth. It's softer. It's much softer than this surrogate monkey. But this monkey does not dispense milk, does not provide nutrition to the baby monkey. And just observe what the baby monkey is doing. What the baby monkey was doing in the experiment is that the baby monkey, for the most of the time, spend the time with this surrogate monkey on the right, spend with the time with the cloth surrogate monkey. When the baby monkey is so hungry, the baby monkey jumped to the other surrogate monkey who is made of wire mesh and get milk, because that surrogate monkey dispense milk. And after finishing eating the milk, the big monkey quickly jumped back to the cloth surrogate monkey. So for most of the time, like the baby monkey spent most of the time with the cloth surrogate monkey. So what is the conclusion of this experiment? The finding is that each monkey likes the cloth surrogate mother and spend time with it most of the time. That's the basic conclusion from the observation of those newborn baby monkeys. So the suggestion is that the cloth and the warmer and the softer cloth is very important for building the emotional or affective attachment between the newborn monkey and the surrogate mother monkey. So the mother has the natural real mother for sure has the warmer and the softer skin, has hair, and so the newborn monkey can spend the time with the natural mother. So the monkey likes the warmth and also the softer texture of the skin of mother. And in this case, this newborn monkey was really poor, only had two choices. All these two monkey mothers are surrogate monkeys. But the newborn monkey still prefer softer and warmer texture. So that the baby monkey chose the cloth surrogate mother instead of the wire surrogate mother. And there are some other follow-up studies on these newborn monkeys. When these newborn monkeys grow up, because they lost the attachment with their natural mothers. They have the very slow development in terms of the physical development and also the cognitive development. They also suffer from some kind of mental illness. They cannot really adjust their or control their emotions. These newborn monkeys, when these newborn monkeys grow up, they have a lot of them have mental illness. They cannot control their emotions. They are really impulsive, and they are really slow in the cognitive development. They're not that smart with the normal monkeys, compared with normal monkeys. And also their physical development is very slow. It's not really good. So generally speaking, the development of these newborn monkeys is not really good. It's not expected, because they only spend the time with these surrogate monkeys. So Harry Harlow's studies were very controversial because these newborn monkeys suffer from these experiments. They cannot, they have mental illness. They cannot physically grow well. And so these studies were very controversial. So, but these studies show that the emotional or affective connection or attachment between the babies and the mothers are very, very important for somebody's development. And we can talk about the concept of attachment in detail. So John Bowlby was a psychologist, developmental psychologist, and in 1970s, he developed a theory called attachment theory. So what is attachment? So based on his definition, attachment is a very lasting psychological connection between human beings. So it's a psychological connection, or you can understand it as the emotional connection or affective connection between human beings, usually between the baby and the caregiver, usually his or her mother or father or any kind of other caregivers. So that is attachment. It's an emotional bond with another who is perceived as a source of security. So the baby, the newborn baby, perceive this person as a source of security. So attachment is formed. It's a relationship that is very close, very caring, and very enduring. And that kind of relationship can lasting for like the entire life. It's very close. It's very long lasting. So in attachment, it's not just a normal relationship. In this attachment, in this kind of emotional connection or psychological connection, the baby perceives the caregiver as a source of security. So this caregiver is a secure base. A parent's presence or any kind of a caregiver's presence gives the child a sense of safety when the child is exploring the world, because the child oftentimes plays and explore the world. When the child is exploring the world, he or she needs the sense of security. That's the natural tendency for everyone. Not because the child's, even if that child is very young, they need a sense of security. They can understand that. So they need a secure base. They need a source of security. So their parent, any parents or any caregiver are secure based, are these source of security. So why attachment theory? Why is attachment theory important? So why we learn about attachment theory? Because attachment, we found that attachment is, we can understand close relationships through attachment. So attachment is actually a leading framework to understand close relationships. So why people form close relationships with each other? So why does that happen? Why does it happen? Why people can have close relationships with somebody? Why not other people? So how to understand that? If we understand attachments, we can use that to understand people's close relationships. And also attachment is very, very critical for newborn babies' survival. So why do newborn babies can survive? Because of attachment. Every baby needs to form attachment with their caregivers or parents. So having the emotional bond is very critical for everyone's survival. And later, children can internalize those attachment relationships, and those attachments are the blueprints for future relationships. In other words, any kind of relationships in later life are just the copies of the attachments between the baby and the caregiver. The attachment is the blueprint for any other relationship for that person. Because children learn to build the relationships with other people based on the attachment theory, attachment relationship with that caregiver, with that parent. So that's why attachment is so important. And there is a video that shows how children form attachments with their mothers, or that's a video that shows us children have the attachments, have different kinds of attachments with their mothers. Let's watch the video. This experiment, I watched two people design the house. Important clue is one of the videos. Okay, so in this video, there's like experiments that is being done by John Bowlby, the professor. So it shows like three examples. In the first example, that the mother and the child enter a strange room. It's a room that they haven't entered before. There's a strange room, and there are two chairs. There are some like paintings on the wall, and there are some toys on the ground. And so the mother guides the child entering the room. The mother is there first, and the child starts to play with the toys, and starts with looking at the paintings on the wall. You can see that. Yeah, so the child is playing with the toys and playing with her mother happily. And the second step of the experiment is that the experimenter, John Bowlby asked the mother to leave the room, leave this baby, this child alone in this room. That's no wonder that the child is so anxious. The child is crying when the mother leaves the room. Why is that? Why the child is crying? Because the child perceives the mother as a secure base. If the secure base is gone, there's no security. There's no sense of security left in this room. So that's why the child is so anxious, so is crying, because the child was so scared. And when the mother is not at home, is not at that room, the baby is just crying. The child is crying and does not play with toys. Is crying all the time because the sense of security is gone. There's no way to explore the world peacefully. And in the third step, the mother comes back. So she has left for like 1 minute or 2 minutes. So she come back and sees the child, comfort the child. The child returns back to the happy mood again. Because the sense of security comes back, the child does not have to be sad again. The child is happy again, and play with mother, play with the toy again, with the toys again. So we can see from this example that attachments between the mother and the child. The mother is so important for the children, for the child's survival, for the child's situation, or the psychological status. And you can see that when the sense of security, or when the mother is gone, the child does not explore the world at all. So that's one reason, at least one of the reasons, so why attachment is very critical for the baby's survival. And there are other two examples also. In those two examples, we can see that the babies do not form very good attachment or very strong attachment with their mothers. They showed up different phenomena, different reactions to their mother's absence and coming back. So attachment is different. Not every mother and child form very good attachments. So based on the quality of attachments, John Bowlby classified like at least 3 kinds of attachment or 3 attachment styles. The first attachment style is called a secure attachment. Secure attachment. So in this kind of attachment style, this child sees the caregiver as a secure base, 100% sure. So 100% sure this caregiver is a secure base. Perceive the caregiver as a secure base. And the child is happy to explore the environment. When the caregiver is present, they're happy, they're active, because they have the sense of security in their mind. When the caregiver leaves, they're upset, they're anxious, they're crying. That's for sure, because the sense of security is gone. When the mother comes back, they're happy again. They can, their caregivers can comfort the babies. So the babies are happy, return to the happy mood again, because the sense of security comes back. However, not every child has a secure attachment with their caregivers. There are other 2 kinds of insecure attachment styles. So there's one insecure attachment style. It's called anxious ambivalent attachment style. So what is anxious ambivalent attachment? The child does not see the caregiver as a secure base, so that the child does not really have a really strong sense of security, even if the caregiver is present, because they cannot build a very strong attachment with the caregiver. When the caregiver is present, the children do not really explore little with the environment. Why is that? Because they do not have the sense of security, even if the caregiver are present. When the caregiver leaves, they're distressed, they're not happy, they're upset, they're crying. When the caregiver comes back, the reaction is different from the babies who have a secure attachment styles. When the caregiver comes back, they're still angry. They feel helpless. This kind of the attachment, a very important feature is that the children are really anxious because they do not have a sense of security. They're anxious, but they have a really ambivalent attitude toward the presence of the caregiver. They want the caregiver, but they are not sure that whether the caregiver gives them the sense of security. They want the caregiver, but at the same time, they reject the caregiver. So they are so ambivalent. And the third kind of attachment style is called anxious avoidant attachment. So this is also an insecure attachment style. They are also anxious because they do not have a sense of security when the caregiver is present. They totally avoid or ignore the caregiver. The caregiver seems to be a stranger. They do not explore the environment because there's no sense of security. When the caregiver leaves or comes back, they do not have emotions. It's like this guy is a stranger. It's not somebody who is important. So you can see that they totally reject or avoid or ignore the caregiver because the caregiver has nothing to do with them. there's no connection there's no attachment between the child and the caregiver. So this attachment style is called anxious avoidant attachment. It's slightly different from the anxious ambivalent attachment style. And we can see that because people have different kind of attachment styles when they are young, when they grow up, there are following consequences, because attachment is the blueprints for the future close relationships, and also really, really important for the future development of personalities. For the children who have these secure attachments, when they grow up, they can trust others, because in their mind, they have the deep sense of trusting the caregiver, so they can trust others. Because relationships with others are just copies of the relationship with their caregiver. And they can also maintain the good relationships with other people. They can form really close relationships. They feel comfortable with that. For the second type of attachment styles, the children with the anxious ambivalent attachment styles, when they grow up, they cannot trust others because they do not have a sense of security when the caregiver is present. They cannot have that kind of feeling that other people are trustworthy. They fear to be rejected because they are anxious. They want it, but they cannot really rely on it. That's their difficulty. They have the difficulty to maintain good relationships with others. And for the third kind, the children with anxious avoidant attachment styles, when they grow up, they cannot trust others either because they do not have the attachment with their caregiver. They cannot maintain good relationships with other people. So these features are the same with the second type, the anxious ambivalent attachment style. So for the two kinds of insecure attachment styles, the children with these two insecure attachment styles, they cannot have or maintain good relationships with other people. They cannot trust others because they lack a very secure attachment experience with their caregivers when they are young. So you can see attachments are very, very important for the future development of everyone, every person. Not every baby has a secure attachment. A secure attachment is a very ideal one, but not every baby has that secure attachment. Probably for the 50% of babies have secure attachment. That is the number that I have seen. So only half of the people have or used to have secure attachment styles with their caregivers. For the other half, they either have anxious ambivalence or anxious avoidant attachment. Maybe there are other kinds, like some people have more than one type of attachment styles. That is interesting. Some people might have both secure and insecure attachment styles. Some people have like anxious ambivalent and also anxious avoidant attachment styles. Some people even have 3 attachment styles. So, but less than or most up to 50% of babies have these secure attachment styles. That is attachment theory, and let's go to another concept. Another concept that I must mention is called temperament. So we now focus on the roles of the social environment, focus on roles of the parenting, focus on roles of other people's influence. but the baby's internal characteristics are also important for their development. One kind of internal characteristic is called temperament. So temperaments are the basis of personality. So when the infants are born, when the newborn babies are born, they do not have the personality traits yet. Gradually, they develop some kind of personality in their life when they're children. But before that, before birth, they have different kind of characteristics already. That is the physiological basis of personality. That is called temperament. So when the newborn babies are born, they have different characteristics already. That is because of the physical stuff, because of the physiological characteristics. They have different reactions, or they have different features. Or you can see that some babies are really outgoing, but some other babies are really quiet when they are born, after they are born. Some babies are very easily irritated. They get angry very easily. Some babies are almost always happy. So these are the differences among these newborn babies because of the different temperaments. So based on temperament, they start to gradually form their own personalities because of the social environment, because of the social interactions with the environment. So that is temperament. And another topic that I want to mention is about parenting. So parents' influence is very important. So parents have different parenting styles. In different families, parents have different styles of educate their children. So in our psychological research, there's one way to classify parenting styles. So in this way, the parenting styles are classified or categorized as four styles. So first kind is called the authoritative parenting style. So what is authoritative parenting style? They have a lot of requirements on their own children. They have a lot of really high demands. They have high expectations, high demands on their own children. But also at the same time, they gave their children a lot of support. They help the children to meet the requirements. They help the children to be successful, to give them a lot of resources, a lot of support, a lot of guidance, a lot of coaching and stuff. High support, high degree of support, but a high degree of demands as well. And another parenting style is called authoritarian parenting style. It's different from authoritative style. So in authoritarian parenting style, they have a lot of requirements on their children. They have a high degree of demands. They have really high expectations on their children. They require the children to do a lot, really strict on their children, but they do not give a lot of support to their children. They do not help the children. They do not give the support. They do not give the resources. They do not coach the children. Instead, they just use punishment to control the children. If the children do not do well, punish the children. If the children do well, do not punish the children. But they do not give them support. That is called an authoritarian parenting style. And a third style is called permissive style, parenting style. So in permissive parenting style, they do not require a lot on children. They do not have the high demands on children. They do not do not expect their children to be really good. And at the same time, they do not give the children support. They do not help the children. They do not give the children resources. The way they do is they just let the children do what they want. They indulge their children's desires. If the children have some kind of impulses or the children want something, go get it. And that's okay. That's it. I do not help you. I do not have a lot of expectations on you. That kind of a parenting style. It's called a permissive parenting style. And the last kind is called uninvolved. From the name of the parenting style, we can see that they're not involved in educating their children. They just neglect their children's needs. They do not have the demands. They do not have the support at all. They are indifferent. They neglect their children. So that's called uninvolved parenting style. I do not know if this is kind of a parenting style or not. There's no parenting inside in this style. And because of different parenting styles, when the children grow up, there are different consequences. They grow up, they develop different kinds of patterns or personalities. They become different kinds of people because of their parents' parenting styles. So let's see what the consequences are. When the children who have the authoritative parenting style, when they grow up, they have a high degree of self-reliance. They can rely on themselves. They have a high degree of self-control. They can control themselves very well. They are able to reduce stress very well. They can respond to stress very well. They really want to have high achievements. They really want to make contributions in their career, in everything. They really want to have really high level of achievement. That is the consequence of authoritative parenting style. Why is that? Because from this kind of authoritative parenting style, the children see the result, right? So they can get the support, they can get the help from the parents. They also have a really high levels of goals. They can make a lot of achievements under the influence of authoritative parenting style. So when they grow up, they have the confidence. They also have a lot of experience of controlling themselves, controlling their own impulses and make the achievements. They have a lot of experience with this. So they have abilities to rely on themselves, to control themselves, to respond to the stress, to make contributions, to make achievements. And the children with the authoritarian parenting style, when they grow up, they are fearful. They fear to have achievements. They fear to respond to stress because they are really vulnerable to stress. They cannot deal with stress because when they grow up, they do not have the support. They do not have the experience of being successful. They are just get punished. So they are so fearful of doing things because they do not want to be punished. They have too many experiences of get punished after they fail to do something well. And they lack the purpose. They lack the sense of purpose because their parents do not provide the goals for them. For the authoritative parenting style, the parents provide the goals for the children to finish. So the children know what to do, can pursue a lot of goals. But children with under the authoritarian parenting style, they do not know what to do because they don't have a lot of experiences of having goals and pursue the goals. They do not have those experiences. So they lack a sense of purpose. And for the children who grown up under the permissive parenting style, they cannot rely on themselves. They cannot control themselves. They are impulsive because their children indulge their desires every time they have the impulses. So they cannot control themselves. They're really impulsive. If they want to do something, they do it quickly. They cannot control themselves. They also have they also lack the sense of purpose because they don't have the experience of having a goal and pursue that goal. They do not make a lot of achievements because they just do whatever they want to do. They do not really control themselves to make achievements. And the parents with the children with uninvolved parenting style, when they grow up, they are anxious. They cannot make achievements because parents do not support them. They are fearful. They're scared of a lot of things. They're withdrawn emotionally because their parents are treating them like that. So they're emotionally withdrawn. So we can see that with different parenting styles, children are having different kind of personalities and different life when they grow up. I guess that the best parenting style here, based on this classification method, the authoritative parenting style, the first one is the best one, best parenting style, because the children under the authoritative parenting style, they can rely on themselves, they can be successful, they can respond to stress very quickly, very successfully. They can have high achievements. Other three parenting styles are not that ideal. Children under those parenting styles have all kinds of different kinds of problems when they have grown up. So this is about the parenting style. Next, let's talk about the development of self-concept. So starting from age 2, children start to develop the self-concept. Children start to develop the knowledge about themselves. So before 2 years old, starting from 18-month-old, children start to form self-concepts, and they start to know who they are. Before 2 years old and starting from 18-month-old. How do we tell? How do we tell they have the self-concept? Because the babies in this age can recognize themselves in the mirror. So you show them a mirror in front of them, and they can recognize themselves. A lot of animals cannot. If you show a mirror to some kind of animals, they cannot recognize themselves. They do not know the image in the mirror are themselves, such as cats. Cats cannot recognize themselves in the mirror. Some dogs can. Some dogs are able to recognize themselves. And humans can. Humans who are like older than 18 months old can recognize themselves in the mirror. So between age 2 and 7, in the early childhood, there are a lot of changes and growth in this period. For example, children learn to be autonomous. So that's what we talk about in Erickson's psychosocial view of human development, right? So they learn to be autonomous. They learn to be independently finishing some tasks. They want to try some new possibilities because they want to try different things. They start to have some kind of moral development. They start to develop a sense of what is right and what is wrong. And they take more initiatives. That is a feature of the stage 3 in Erickson's theory, right? So they take more initiative to do more things by themselves. They also imitate others because they need to learn from others. They socialize. They can learn more social skills. And they start to know their own genders. They start to have a concept that, well, some others are different, some others like are males, some others are females, and they know their own genders. And in this stage, for sure, they learn human language. They start to speak language. And they also form the group identities. They know which group they are in. And they start to show their personalities, because from the birth, they do not have the personality yet. They just have temperament. But later on, they gradually grew up in the social environment. They start to have their own personality displayed. So these are the changes and characteristics from age 2 to 7 about the development of self-concept. So we have talked about infancy and early childhood, and let's go talking about adolescence a little bit. So adolescence is the age period from age 13 or 12 to 20. Yeah, it's basically in that age. So there are some characteristics of adolescence. Let's see about this. So in this stage, it's really critical to develop identities. So that's what we talk about in Erickson's theory. So in adolescence, people try to figure out who they are in the society. They try to figure out what they can do in the society. So it's really critical to forming some kind of identities. So identity is just the position in the social relationships, their own positions in the society. So that is called identity. Yeah, they explore different roles. They want to see what they can do, what they are, and who they are in the society. They learn to have intimate relationships. They start to date with girlfriend or boyfriend. That is like a preparation for the next stage, emerging adulthood. In this stage, they are more influenced by peers, by groups, rather than by parents. So before adolescence, in childhood and infancy, children are more influenced by their own parents. You can see attachment styles, parenting styles. Also, these things are really important for the children's development. But starting from adolescence, people are more influenced by other people in the groups rather than by parents. And also in this stage, a process called individuation happens. It means that they're gradually separate from their own family system. They kind of build their own identities in their societies. This process is called individuation. They become independent individuals in the society. And this stage is very difficult for most of the people because they gradually become adults and they gradually separate from their family. And let's look at adulthood. So adulthood is the stage that is beyond age 20. There's emerging adulthood, there's middle adulthood, and there's late adulthood. So we can briefly talk about the characteristics of this stage, adulthood. There are some changes or growth in terms of cognitive domain.
So remember that in terms of intelligence, there is crystallized intelligence, there is a fluid intelligence. In adulthood, crystallized intelligence stays really stable during adulthood. So once they learn something, they have some kind of a permanent knowledge or skills. They just have those. But fluid intelligence, the ability to solve some real problems, that kind of intelligence declines starting from the 30s. So gradually, people lost the ability, lost the fluid intelligence, lost the ability to solve the real problems creatively. So these are the cognitive changes in adulthood. And in terms of the psychosocial domain, adults gradually found that meaning in life is more important. So before adulthood, people do not really think about the meaning in life. So when children do not really think about the meaning in life, but in adulthood, gradually adults start to think about their own meaning in life. They started to think about why I have such a life. What is the meaning in my life? They start to find the meaning in their life. They start to have the good relationships with others. And positive relationships contribute to well-being. So probably for children, good relationships are not that important for their own well-being. They're happy or not happy not because of good relationships, but for adults, relationships are more and more important. Good relationships contribute to their own well-being more and more. For example, having a stable marriage is very important for adults' well-being level. So that is the psychosocial changes in adulthood. Okay, so that's all the stuff that we have talked about for today's lecture. And this lecture video might be longer than all other videos. All other videos like take less than 2 hours, but this video might take more than 2 hours because we have a lot of stuff to cover in this week, in this chapter. We have talked a lot of stuff in developmental psychology, and there's no enough time to talk about more details in developmental psychology. So actually, developmental psychology is very big branch in psychology, but we only have 1 week to learn about developmental psychology. And as usual, for this week, there are some important concepts to know about. So first, we need to know the meaning of some important concepts, including developmental psychology. So that's for sure. We need to know what developmental psychology is. We need to know the Piaget's theory of cognitive development. For example, the sensory motor stage, the pre-operational stage, the concrete operational stage. We need to know what the stages are and the characteristics in these stages. Also, we need to know the concept of object permanence, theory of mind, conservation. So these are really important concepts that we know. We also need to know attachment theory. So we need to know what attachment is. We need to know 3 attachment styles or 3 types of attachment. There's a secure attachment, there's an anxious ambivalent attachment, there's an anxious avoidance attachment. And also we need to know about the Erikson's psychosocial view of human development. we need to know the main task for the first 3 stages. So stage 1, trust versus mistrust. Stage 2, autonomy versus shape. And stage 3, identity. Oh, sorry, it's not first 3. So it's like we just know the main task for these 3 stages. Trust versus mistrust, autonomy versus shape, and identity versus confusion. So ideally, you can know every stage. You can know the main task for every stage, but more importantly, you need to know the main tasks for these 3 stages. That's stage 1, stage 2, and stage 5. Yeah. And that's it for this week, for this lecture video. And thank you for watching this lecture video. And let's see next week.